Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and earlier this week we covered some of the stuff that's happening in patch 9.0.5. We got class changes, we got legendary changes, Torghast changes, other content and updates, but also we got covenant changes. And one of the covenants that took a lot of spotlight with this week update was the Necrolord. And a lot of class Necrolord abilities have also gotten changed. Before I talked about all the class stuff and the covenant stuff and my hopes that Blizzard gets them as close to one another where every single covenant actually brings some kind of a meaningful, valuable choice no matter what class or spec you're playing. And here the Blizzard wanted to try to shore up some of the abilities that were seen as weaker for the Necrolord covenant. In this video, I just want to take a look at the abilities and give you guys my opinion on whether it's enough or whether Blizzard can do more, and how could the meta potentially change if were all these 9.05 changes, which are not finalized, if those were to come to live right now, would it make any kind of impact at all? We'll first start off with Demon Hunters. The Necrolord Demon Hunter ability for both specs is pretty bad. It was always gimmicky and never really good. Numerically, it never matched up, but at first it was something like, you slay a demon and it drops a pool of blood, and while you're inside of that blood you do more damage. For a class as mobile as Demon Hunter, you are not going to stay in one spot, and that's kind of what Blizzard wanted you to do. Then they changed it so that you summon a demon, he'll give you the demon soul, and you do that Demon Hunter thingy where you suck up demon souls, you do more damage. A mechanic we haven't really seen so much since Legion, since there's not that much demons since Legion. I mean, BFA, Shadowlands, there's a lot of humanoids and undead, but lack of demons for certain. Blizzard ended up making this ability passive, so it's at least different from the other Covenant abilities, and demons seem to proc quite often, and they are quite easy to kill. They also will do a bit of shadow damage. That shadow damage is okay. They still give you that same demon buff, which is quite significant, especially with how for Demon Hunters extra damage during demon form as a tank or even as Havoc can be either more damage or more healing, so it has that versatility to it. With Havoc and Vengeance being a little bit more intermittent with damage, kind of playing around certain cooldowns, when you get a random demon spawn, if you get one every 30 seconds consistently, then about every 30 seconds with other cooldowns, you actually could do quite a significant amount of damage with it. And it has a 25% heal. That's a pretty massive one with how often they throw demons at you, and having about a 1 or 2 procs per minute to it seems kind of consistent. The Fleshcraft defensive cast, by the way, is also quite significant. I wonder if this could actually be a potential choice for Vengeance Demon Hunters. I know it's really hard to top Kyrian, but with the defensive bonuses and the regular healing you can get out of it, it could actually be good. I wonder if it could be any good for Havoc Demon Hunter, but there's just too many unknowns to say if it's going to be good or not, but I definitely have high hopes. For Druids, we have a buff to the Swarm ability. Adaptive Swarm jumps between enemies and allies, doing damage to enemies, making them take more dot damage from abilities, and doing the opposite to allies, healing them with a heal over time and making any hots on them a lot more powerful. Those are both the damage, the healing, and the debuff setup, where you do now 25% more healing or 25% more damage over time to enemies or allies, so Night Fae ability should actually be quite decent. I've always wanted to see if a Feral Bleed build or a Boomy Dot build could be a thing, but even if this Covenant ends up being numerically good, I think it's going to be really tough to top Night Fae. Night Fae is too fun, and I feel like no matter how much you buff some of the other Covenants, and I feel like this one was the one furthest behind of all of them for Druid, even if it's numerically better, which could allow some players potential with Adaptive Swarm, I feel like Night Fae is just going to be way too good. The defensive benefit for the Necrolord Fleshcraft I think could be okay for Bear, but Bears already feel kind of tanky as is. They're actually just like a health sponge. They just take so much damage and they can just heal right through it. They actually are not bad for PvE at all. Very uncertain how Adaptive Swarm buffs and the Necrolord is going to affect Druid meta. With Hunters, we have a very similar situation as Druid. The Night Fae ability is just too good. Well, in fact, Kyrian is also pretty good, but the advantages that Kyrian and Night Fae have compared to the other Covenants is, I think Covenants are numerically pretty close to one another on pure single target. Night Fae is slightly ahead in all aspects, but also in cleave and AoE, which the Necrolords don't really do. So unless Blizzard does something to make Chakram better for single target and the other one from Venthyr better for single target and leave the others better for AoE and cleave, I don't think you're going to have a lot of people swapping. However, there is some potential to the Necrolord defensive benefit with the Fleshcraft ability. While you channel Fleshcraft, you take 30% less damage, and as you run over slaying corpses, you do reduce the cooldown of that ability passively. That could be a good defensive for Hunters. If anything, hunters are actually really squishy. Like, really squishy. Out of all the classes that are wearing mail, they're squishier than leather wearers and even some clothies. They just take so much damage, and sometimes besides turtle and besides survival of the fittest, you do run out of defenses pretty quickly. I wonder if there's a potential argument for a defensive usage of the Necrolord Hunter, especially for stuff like Mythic Pluses. I still think it's going to be hard to justify going the Covenant over others, but Hunters, if anything, are squishy. So I wonder if there will be any Hunters that will end up going Necrolord for the defensive. For mages, the Necrolord Covenant ability is Deathborn. Blizzard buffed the duration of that ability so it lasts longer, and it does slightly more damage with your filler spells, going from 10% more damage of Fireball, Arcane Blast, and Frostbolt to 15. I feel like if Blizzard wants to make this Covenant decent against Night Fae, it's again a very similar Hunter Druid situation. The Night Fae Covenant is just too good. It does great in AoE, it does great in Cleave, it also gives you cooldown reduction. It's a multifaceted ability that's usable in multiple situations. Deathborn ability needs to be, if anything, numerically close for people to even consider. Because the Night Fae ability just kind of does it all. If Blizzard can get it close, I still feel like it'll be difficult for people to justify going Necrolord since Night Fae has other bonuses and benefits. I wonder if Blizzard could maybe do something more with the Deathborn ability to sweeten the deal. Like for example, maybe for PvP purposes, make it so while you're Deathborn, you can be interrupted. That would be interesting. Not only buff the ability damage, but make it so you are uninterruptible. For a pretty big cooldown, it'll be a pretty big value. Or maybe even make it where mages can move while casting. And think of it as like a enhanced version of a mage form, where mages have to stand still and cast, but Deathborn allows you to cast while moving and do more damage. I feel like something like that could maybe be interesting, and I feel like even if the Necrolord ability was numerically close to what Night Fae was able to do in terms of sims for raw PvE damage, I still feel like it'll be very difficult to convince many mages to even give Necrolord Mage playstyle a solid try. Then we have the Paladins with the Vanquisher's Hammer. The Vanquisher's Hammer change is only that it now rewards Holy Power. I feel like that by itself as an ability change isn't going to be enough to get people to go Necrolord. Even with the Fleshcraft Shield being a better defensive, I just think it's going to be difficult. Maybe for PvP, when you get locked out on Holy, you can channel a shield, but I don't really know about that. I feel like Vanquisher's Hammer needs to have a bit of a redesign. It just doesn't really fit into the Holy and Prot playstyle that much. It's kind of okay for it, and it's just an ability you use whenever you don't have any of your more important abilities to use. I think that would need to do some kind of a redesign to maybe make Necrolord Paladin a little bit more considered for Paladins, but I don't really know in which direction that would really go, as the one Covenant I haven't really touched even back in the alpha or the beta. Finally, we have the banner for the warrior, the most exciting change in my opinion, as the banner will now not only travel with the warrior instead of having you place it and then of course walking out of the banner because enemies will run out of your banner range. It now travels with the warrior, which makes all the sense in the world. You plant the banner on your back, there you are, empowering your allies. It grants you 400 mastery, but not only you, but 2 other allies. That's 1200 mastery across your group. And while it was just 400 mastery for you, I wouldn't bat an eye. 1200 mastery across your group for classes that may benefit from mastery more than you do. That's just a lot of raw stats. The shorter cooldown makes it a lot more exciting too, and the Necrolord Fleshcraft ability now has a 30% DR. For DPS, it might not be that great, but for a tank who doesn't really do well with magic damage, when you don't have Spell Reflect, you can't block spells, you can't parry them, you can't dodge them, so you might as well cast Necrolord Fleshcraft while a powerful cast goes out. I don't know, I feel like for tanks, that actually could be quite a massive utility. I think this combo is the one I'm mostly excited about. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I definitely have high hopes. For every class in this video that I didn't mention, like Death Knights or Shamans or Warlocks, I don't think Necrolord is going to change. If Necrolord is good right now, it's going to stay good. If it's somewhat okay, it's going to stay somewhat okay. But the other classes just didn't get enough substantial changes, and I don't think for those classes the Fleshcraft change is going to be too much of a change in terms of meta, in terms of how people are going to be considering different covenants for those classes. But maybe time will tell, and maybe I'll be wrong. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the Necrolord changes, and are you thinking of maybe going Necrolord as any of the classes we talked in this video? Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in another one.